right, hello everybody, welcome. I'm Paul Bernacki, and I hope everybody got a clipboard with a little book and a pen, and we have a schedule of events for you. And if you want to take any notes, the last page is blank. I always take notes wherever I go, so I hope that helps y'all. There's a little registration card. I would appreciate if you're able to fill it out and just turn it at that center table. It just gives us feedback of who's attending and what topics you might be interested in. Steve Wohlberg is here from Priest River, Idaho. That's in North Idaho. And he's a prolific writer and speaker of 40 plus books on health and the Bible. He has spoken throughout the country and by special invitation of the Pentagon and the U.S. Senate. So I think it's amazing that we got him up here to Garden Valley. So I look forward to hearing him talk. So come on up and tell us your knowledge about health.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, let's make sure we get all these. I'm fully wired up here. Got all kinds of things on me. So good afternoon. Good to be here in Garden Valley. This is the first time I've ever been to Garden Valley. I like it. I like it a lot. It's not too dissimilar from Priest River, Idaho. Anybody been to Priest River, Sandpoint, Coeur d'Alene area? Well, that's where we live. So, and I'm curious, with the name like Garden Valley, how many of you like to garden? I'm just, okay, good. Well, I do too. I've got 4 raised beds and quite a few fruit trees. So I'm happy to be here. I'm a little bit conflicted about whether I should be wearing a suit and a tie up here. You know, I don't want to take a vote and see how many of you are tie people or not, but I'm guessing that Garden Valley is a lot more laid back. So I gathered a couple opinions, and the consensus was that for the first presentation, I would be nicely dressed. But tomorrow, if you come to my sprouting class, I will be scaling down. Because when we're talking about, sprouting and growing things, I'll be wearing my jeans and a nice shirt. So I'm assuming that will be just fine. So anyway, I'm thankful to be here, glad to be here. We got a big topic concerning health. I think most of us, I'm sure the reason why you're here is because you're concerned about health. We all know that this world, in many ways, is a battlefield. I mean, there's wars going on in the Ukraine, in Israel. There's a lot of problems in this world. There are political wars that are taking place in government. There are wars going on, ideological wars in communities. Too many families are at war with each other. There's a war going on morally in our society, and there's a war going on inside of our bodies. We are all in a battle concerning our health. Health is a big deal to me. I am almost 66, and I want to be around for as long as possible. I have a wife and 2 children. Our son Seth is almost 21, and our daughter is 17. And I love my wife, I love my kids, and I want to be around to be a good dad and to be a good husband as long as I can be here. So anyway, I've got a lot of slides to share with you. So here's my first one, obviously, the seminar. This is war. I just found this on the internet, and it impressed me. I fight for my health every day in ways most people don't understand. I am not lazy. I am a warrior. I am a warrior. In other words, I'm doing what I've got to do in order to be as healthy as I can. So we're going to be talking about today the battle for our health, the battle for your health, and the battle for my health. A week ago Wednesday, I took a trip with my daughter, Abigail, and we were heading to southern Tennessee to look at a college that she is, actually now she's made her decision. At the time she hadn't, we were going there, but this was just a little over a week ago. We were on our way, we landed in Nashville, heading to a college to have a tour so she could meet with the head of the department and find out about the school and whether she wanted to be there as a freshman. And she does. And so anyway, as we walked into the airport, welcome to Nashville. As we got off the plane, I thought I would send a picture to my wife and Seth and let them know that we arrived safely. And as we were walking right down this little corridor heading toward a baggage claim, there was a marquee on the wall that caught my eye. And I looked at it and I contemplated it and I decided I'm going to take a picture of it and I'm going to show it to you in Garden Valley, Idaho. So look at this carefully. This is from Vanderbilt Health. It was an advertisement. And it said, in 2024, we set the world record of the most heart transplants in history. In a city known for making great records, which is Nashville. Now, I don't think they make actually records anymore. They make MP3s and things are much higher tech. But it said, in a city known for making great records, this is the greatest. So they're, proud of their successes in having the most heart transplants in history, a world record in Nashville. And I thought about that, and I thought, there's two sides to this coin, isn't there? The fact that they've done the most heart transplants tells me that there's a lot of people in Nashville that need heart transplants. And that, people have heart problems. And this is one of the most prevalent forms of illness, at least in North America and other countries, I'm sure, is heart disease. And I don't know if anybody, I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand, but if any of you, know what that's like, this is very serious, isn't it? To have a heart attack, to need some kind of surgery, whether you're opening up your arteries or even if you need a new heart. We are in a battle. We are in a war. And it affects even our physical hearts, not just our spiritual hearts, but our physical hearts as well. Heart disease. This is very sad, this picture. This is a picture of my wife's cousin. My wife, her name is Kristen. She's 51, she's a little younger than I am, so I want to keep up with her. Her cousin, Sandy, she's also right about her age. And 3 weeks ago, she gave up the fight against cancer. She was fighting cancer for a number of years. They thought they got it, but then it came back. They thought they got it again. It came back, and then they found that it had gone throughout her body, into her lungs. And she was a trooper. She believed in God. She prayed. We all prayed again and again. Lord, if it's your will, please heal Sandy. Help her to get through this. Well, about 3 weeks ago, actually it was about 4 weeks ago, she gave up the battle. She said, I'm done. I'm tired. This is not working. I'm just going to trust the Lord, and I'm going to give up the fight. So anyway, you can see the date on this, March 23, which is tomorrow, is her funeral in California. And my wife is there, my son Seth is there, my daughter Abby's there. When I found out about this, I thought, wow, I need to be there with my family. And I know Sandy, she's a good friend of mine, but I made a phone call and found out that the advertisement had already gone out to your community for this meeting, and I just felt responsible to be here and to do this for you, because I feel it's the right thing to do. Because you're depending upon me, you're relying on me, done the advertising, and so I told my wife, tell the family, hello from me, but I'm not there. But it's very sad, it's just a sad situation. Thankfully, the family believes in God, so we have the hope of eternity. But anyway, cancer, heart disease is number one, Cancer is number 2. And I don't think there's anybody in this room, I'm guessing, that doesn't know somebody who has struggled with heart disease or with cancer. We're in a war, aren't we? We're not just in a war in Israel and in the Ukraine and among the Democrats and the Republicans, but we are in a health war. And this is very much a part of that war. Now, if you have the little book, and I'm hoping that you won't read that little book while I'm talking, you'll get the whole story. Normally when I give out books during my seminars, and I do a lot of seminars, I give them out at the end because I don't want people reading, I want them listening. So, but anyway, this is the way we did it this time. It's fine, it's just fine. But the little book tells the story of our son Seth. So here's our family, Kristen and Abby and me and Seth. Seth was our firstborn, and I'll tell you a story that's in the book that ties into this whole topic. When Seth was about 3 years old, the most horrible thing happened that I have ever seen with these eyes of mine. Seth was in his car seat, in the back seat. Chris and I were driving in Northern California, heading home. Kristen turned around and she said, "Something is wrong with Seth." So we pulled over. I pulled over, I was driving, and I looked at my little boy, and he was in his car seat as a 3-year-old, and he was convulsing. He was having a seizure. And it was just the most horrible thing. You know, if you can imagine being a parent and having your little boy or your little girl having a seizure. So we called 911. The ambulance came, picked us up, took us to a local hospital. They ran a whole bunch of tests. By that time, he had stopped convulsing. And that was the beginning of a journey that was very, very difficult for my family. We finally took him to a brain specialist. He did various testing on his brain patterns and found out that they were very, very busy. That's what the person said. They're busy. And so he was finally given a diagnosis of a form of epilepsy. And we were shocked. You know, we'd never seen this before. So the person that we were seeing, the medical professional, put him on medication. And we were told that he has to be on this medication for a long time until he goes 2 years without a seizure. And then he can come off the medication, which will probably be when he's a teenager. So here he is on this medication, and within a very short time, he started having a terrible reaction to that medication. So he would go to sleep, and he would wake up about an hour after he was asleep, and he would be screaming. And he would put his hands on his above his ear, next to his ears, and he would just scream, "Ah!" You know, as loud as he could. And it was just horrifying to watch my son doing this. And as a dad who believes in the Bible, who believes in God, who believes in Jesus, I prayed my heart out that God would help in this situation. And it became very clear to me that we were at war. Can you imagine? So I'm praying, God, and there was a Bible verse that said, "The curse causeless does not come." I read that verse, I think it was in the book of Proverbs, and it just told me that whatever's going on here, there's got to be a cause to this. And the particular person that we were going to, he didn't really know what was the cause. He had no clue. And so my wife and I, we kept praying. And eventually we found a physician in the Spokane area named Dr. John Mundall, and the story's all in that little book that you have. So all the details are there. And he was a Christian physician, and we told him what was going on, and he said, "I want to test your son. I want to test his hair. I want to test his blood. I want to test his urine," which the other neurologist had never done. And so we did that. Dr. Mundall did that, and the results were shocking to us. He eventually told us when he got all the test results back, he said, "Your son is loaded with heavy metals. He is very high in cadmium, he's very high in arsenic, he's high in lead, he's got all these metals," and he said, "These are neurotoxins." And he said they can definitely be contributing to seizures. And so Dr. Mandel said, we're going to do something different. Rather than put him on medication or keep him on medication, he told me, he said, it's time for detoxification. Time to detox your boy. So he did different things. He gave him sulfur pills, which bind with heavy metals, and various things that he was doing, a protocol. And he said, in a short time, we're going to get him off these medications. And he's going to be fine. And Dr. Mandel also told me, he said, now be aware, he said, be forewarned that once we get him off the meds and we continue this detox, he said, there's a good chance that he's going to get worse before he gets better. But then he told me, he said, hold the line. Hold the line. He said, I've been through this before, and it will get better. And so sure enough, we took him off the meds, and he did have a number of seizures after that, but then the seizures got farther and farther and farther and farther apart. And I'm happy to say that my son, our son, Seth, has not had a seizure in, let's see, he's almost 21. So it's been about 17 years since he's had a seizure. Yeah. Thank you, God. Thank the Lord. But I learned from that whole experience, seizures caused by heavy metal toxicity. I've learned that it's not just heart disease, it's not just cancer, it's diabetes, it's every form of disease known to man, including seizures. And we're in a battle. We're in a tremendous battle. And I told my wife, I said, honey, if Seth gets off these meds and we do the detox, and then he has another EEG on his brain waves, and if his brain waves are not busy anymore, I said, I'm going to go public with this story. I'm going to tell people. And so sure enough, that's what happened. And so I did go public, and me going public is that yellow book that you all have, Surviving Toxic Terrorism. Now, once I did go public on this, the most common question, which many of you are probably thinking, that people would ask me, they would say, where did Seth get all these heavy metals? And to be honest with you, we're not exactly sure. But the more I studied this subject of the toxins in the environment, I learned that there's toxins in the air, there's toxins in the soil from a lot of the chemicals that are put in there by regular commercial advertising, spraying of the produce. The water sometimes has chemicals. We are surrounded by things that we cannot completely ignore. We should do the best we can, but there are some things we just can't avoid. There are chemicals in household products, in toothpaste, in soap, in shampoo, deodorant. The list just goes on and on. If you look at the list of a lot of the things that you buy, you'll see all this long list of chemicals. And so, we're surrounded by these things. We can't completely avoid them. And it was interesting that I decided I want to have my hair tested. So we tested my hair, Kristen's hair, Abby's hair, and sure enough, we all had heavy metals in our hair, which actually the hair is one of the ways that the body eliminates toxins. It gets them out. And so we learned a lot from this story, that we are living in the midst of all kinds of chemicals that we need to try as much as we can to avoid in the midst of the battle that we're in. Now, I hope you don't mind. I don't know how many of you read the Bible, but I am going to put a couple Bible verses on the screen. 3 John verse 2 says, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. My conviction is that God is most concerned about our souls and our eternal life and our spiritual life, but he's also concerned about our bodies. He made our bodies, he loves us, he wants what's best for us, and so he's definitely concerned about our health. And the Bible is concerned about our health. It's very clear that the Lord wants us to be in health. And it's just a sad day in America. Have you heard the expression, make America healthy again? Have you heard that expression? Now, whatever you think about Robert Kennedy Jr., whatever you think about, what's going on in the government, I think most of us will realize that improving our health would be a good thing. I watched one video with a Democratic physician and a Republican physician, and they didn't see eye to eye in a lot of things, but they both agreed together. Here you have them agreeing together. What do you know? And they both agreed that America needs a health boost. We need to do something to improve our health. There's just too much sickness. Sometimes it's just, a flu or a cold, but many times it's a lot more serious than that. Even you have little kids, that are getting cancer. They're getting brain tumors. I don't have my phone with me, but I'm on a text list from my church, and we regularly get texts. Pray for this person with cancer. Pray for that person who just had a heart attack. Pray for this person, that has a kidney stone. The list just goes on and on. So I think we all know that we are in a world where we have a health battle, right? We all know that. And that's why you're here. So now some people say, I've heard this before, well, we all have to die sometime, right? And, your time's going to come, so it doesn't really matter whether you try to improve your health or not, because when your time comes, your time comes. Well, there is a verse in the Bible, in Ecclesiastes 7:17, that says, why die before your time? So that verse tells me that there are things that we can do that can lessen our risk. Now, there's no guarantees. I'm not here to say I've got a magic pill, and if you do what I say, you'll never get sick, you'll never get old. Of course, I'm not going to say that, because I know that there's no guarantees in life, but there are a lot of things that we can do. And that's what I really want to focus on, not just the problem, but a solution. And there's a lot of things that we can do that can help our bodies in this battle. And I believe it's also a spiritual battle. I believe that behind the scenes, and I think most people realize this, that behind the scenes, we have a physical world where we can see each other, and we all know that there's good guys and bad guys, right? In the physical world, everybody knows that. Whether you're religious or not, we all know there's good and bad. And my belief is that the same battle is going on in the invisible world. There is an invisible world that we can't see, and there are forces out there that are against us. There are good angels, and there are bad angels. And so here's a verse in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 10 that says, put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. I believe there's a real devil out there. He's not our friend, and he wants to bring us down early. He wants to bring you down. He wants to bring me down. And as the Bible talks about the whole armor of God, the armor basically are pieces to protect us. When you read Ephesians, it talks about truth and righteousness and prayer and different things that we can put on in our fight against the devil. But what I'm going to focus on in this seminar today is different parts of an armor that have to do with health principles that will help you. Here's one more verse, John 10:10. Jesus said, the thief, and this is a reference to the devil, the thief does not come but to steal and to kill and to destroy. He's out there to take our lives, take us down. And Jesus said, I have come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. God wants us to be happy. He wants us to be healthy as much as we can in this fallen world. And that's what he is all about. So I'm going to talk about, you could call them 8 pieces of the armor when it comes to physical health. And these are called the 8 laws of health. 8 laws of health. And they're actually world-renowned. People that have studied, nutritionists, scientists, researchers, they're pretty much unanimous on these 8 principles. There's not a lot of debate out there whether doing these things are good for you or are not good for you. So we call these the 8 laws of health. 8 world-renowned health principles. And there's a word that puts these principles together, which is called New Start. And there's actually a program in Northern California at an institute called Weimar Institute. And I used to teach there for the high school kids, and they have programs where they take people from the community to come, and they go through the New Start program. And people who have heart problems, people who have diabetes, people who have cancer, and all kinds of issues, many times they'll fly across the country or from overseas to go to Weimar Institute so they can go through the New Start program. And the word New Start is basically an acronym for these words. So the N in new stands for nutrition, getting good nutrition. The E stands for exercise, the water, W stands for water, S is sunlight, T is temperance, which also means self-control, and then the A is air, R is rest, and the last T is trust, trust in God. So you see the word there? New Start. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through these different principles with you. This is going to be very practical, very down to earth, because those who study health and the body, they have concluded that the more we implement these different principles, which are very, very practical, it's like I said, it's not a guarantee, it's not a blank check, but it definitely will lower your risk of getting some kind of chronic killer disease so that you can live longer, you can be happier. I mean, nobody likes to be sick. You lose time from your job, you feel bad, and being sick also costs you a lot of money a lot of times. Even paying for health insurance is very expensive. So there's really nothing good or very little good that comes out of being sick. So we're going to go through these. Do you think Americans need a nutritional boost these days? There's a saying, they call it SAD, S-A-D, which stands for the Standard American Diet, S-A-D. Many times it is very, very sad. It's amazing with all of the health care that we have in this country, we are struggling with so many sicknesses. So we need a nutritional boost. We need a major boost. So N is nutrition. So here's a picture of lots of vegetables, fruits and vegetables from the garden. Any of you grow tomatoes in your garden? Does that look good? How about broccoli? You grow broccoli in your garden, spinach in your garden. I have a strawberry patch. I have a blueberry patch. I have a raspberry patch. And this morning, I got up, I'm staying with Paul Bernanke in his home, and he's got a big juicer. And so he said, you're welcome to hit the refrigerator and put the carrots in, the ginger in, the cucumber in, the apple in, the lemon in. So that's what I did. So I've got one last couple sips here. And it's got a kick. If you like ginger, you know that ginger has a kick. So there's lemon in there. And I've been sipping on this all day. First I had my big glass, and then the rest of it was in this. And I tell you, my body, now some people might think that's weird, but my cells love it. My cells love the nutrients that are coming in to my body from eating food like this. Now let me talk to you a little bit about the benefits of eating more natural food. More natural food. One of them is fiber. So you've heard of fiber? Fiber is actually only available from plants, from food that grows from the soil. There's no fiber in animal products. So if you kill a deer and you eat the meat, you're not going to get any fiber in that meat. Now, you're going to get nutrition. I'm not saying you're not. But the nutrition that the deer got, ultimately, where did he get the nutrition? He got it from the grass. He got it from the ground. So fiber is only in plants. And the more plant-based food we eat in its original state. So I'm not talking about, like, if you eat an apple, you're getting a lot of fiber. If you eat apple candy, I don't think you'll get any fiber in that. So the more fiber you get, fiber is a part of the plant that when your body digests your food, it doesn't get digested. It doesn't get broken down and then absorbed through your small intestine, because your food goes from your mouth, through your esophagus, into your stomach, into your small intestine, which has a lot of tubing, and then into your large intestine, where then it goes out the body. And it's the small intestine where the food is absorbed, or the nutrients are absorbed to the rest of your body, into your bloodstream, and then it goes to all your other cells. And the fiber doesn't get digested. That you can't break it down, your body can't break it down. So fiber provides, it's like a broom. It gives you what's called roughage. So the roughage, when your small intestine goes like this to move things along, the fiber helps things move along. So the transit time from one end to the other end is quicker. And the result of that is that when the journey goes into your large intestine, before you go to the bathroom and sit down and get rid of what's there, hope you don't mind me being so blunt, but I want to make this clear. The fiber helps things move along and move out quicker. And if you do not have a diet, if you have a diet that has very, very little fiber, it's going to be harder for you to go to the bathroom, and you're a lot more likely, or the risk rises, that you might get colon cancer, because things get backed up down there longer, and the longer they're there, the longer it's possible that something can go wrong and things can start, becoming cancerous. So one of the big factors in preventing colon cancer is to eat more plant-based foods with fiber to move things along. Does that make sense? And what I'm telling you is true. I mean, scientists have been studying this for a long, long time. So fiber is one of the benefits of eating more real nutrition. My conviction is that the more real food we eat and the less merchandise we eat, the better off we are. Somebody once said, if you were to go into a Walmart, you buy your produce, you buy different things, but if somehow they were to close the Walmart, now you have a grocery store here in town, right? This reminds me of the Wild West. I mean, this is great. I would love to live in a little place like this. Kind of picture John Wayne, going his horse down through this. I was out there earlier today and took a picture of a peacock. Big, huge peacock. Took the picture, texted it to my kids. My daughter went, wow, that's pretty. So anyway, you have a grocery store around here. Now, let's just say that they closed the grocery store and locked the doors, and 50 years later, if you were still around and you went into that grocery store. Now, obviously, the produce would all be rotten, but believe it or not, there'd be plenty of food on the shelves that you could still eat. Somebody once said, the longer the shelf life, the shorter your life. Kind of a witty saying. And so you get the point, things can be preserved for a long time through the chemicals that people put in the food, that the big manufacturers put in the food. And the food that doesn't last as long, the produce, these things are not going to last, if you put this in a produce department, it's not going to last for, at least if it's fresh, for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, it's going to rot. But the reality is that the shorter its shelf life, because it's real food, the better it is for your body. You're getting a lot more nutrition. So this morning I had my, let's see, what did I have here? I had my ginger. Here's the ginger here. I had my lemon. I had my carrots. I put them all into this juicer. I grow broccoli in my garden. I've got strawberries. I love avocados. I love chickpeas. I've got tomatoes growing in my garden. Not now. I've got garlic growing in my garden. I've got kale growing in my garden. Not now. I can wait until it's time to plant. But I think you get the point. I'm convicted that the more real food we eat, the more nutrition is going to go to our cells, our 70 trillion cells. It's going to help the brain. It's going to help every part of your body. So I'm not saying that you should never eat anything other than this. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that the more real food you get into your body with fiber in it, you are definitely helping yourself and decreasing your likelihood of having all kinds of health problems. It's not a secret that there's too much sugar, there's too much salt, and there's too much fat in most of the food that's out there. So, we don't, and I heard a sermon once or a talk that somebody gave and said, if there's 10 steps that God wants you to take in your life to improve your life, and you're on step 2, then what do you think is the next most important step to take? It's number 3, that's right. So the point is, you go step by step, a little bit at a time. You've heard the expression, I've told my kids this, I can't know how many times, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? Kids don't learn to walk right away. They fall down a lot. And my kids have fallen down many, many times. So, and then another saying is the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. Right, so the idea is, being here, I'm hoping that this will inspire you and teach you things that are good for you, that will be beneficial in your life, and that you'll think to yourself, maybe I need to take another step or another step in what I am doing to help myself for my health. Now, so the next letter in New Start is exercise. N is nutrition, and E is exercise. So let me just ask you, what are some of the benefits of exercise? Anybody want to say? Okay, yes.
Heart rate variability is a big one.
Yeah, it helps your heart rate. That's right. The more you exercise, I think I have a pretty low heart rate because I'm a runner. I jog. I exercise. I swim when I can. When I'm traveling in hotels, I try to get a hotel that has a pool so I can get up in the morning and get in that pool and do laps. I also am a runner. I'm not a fast runner. I just kind of, move along, not very fast, but I'm still going, and it keeps me going. So it definitely helps with your heart rate. Your heart works more efficiently when your body exercises. Anybody else? Yes?
Keep the muscles strong.
That's right. If you do more than just cardio, if you do some, physical exercise, when you work out in the yard, you're lifting things, your muscles need to be working. There's a saying that most people rust out before they wear out. And that is the truth. So keep the body moving, keep the plumbing humming, keep the things going, because we were not created just to sit all the time. Even if it's just a walk. Now, I have a personal habit. I don't do it all the time, but as much as I can, when I'm done with a meal, I'll take a walk. Just a leisurely walk. In where I live in North Idaho, in Priest River, we have a very nice quiet street that we live on. And so when I take lunch or I eat breakfast, I will typically try to just go out and walk for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and that helps the digestive process. And researchers and scientists say that if you get in a regular habit of just taking a walk, you are going to lengthen your life. At least you increase the likelihood of doing that. So exercise is very, very good for your body. Now, I'll give you one other reason. There's many of them why exercise is good, is that exercise helps your body eliminate toxins. So we talk about the toxin problem. Is it coming down from the sky? Is it in the rain? Is it in the water? All the things that sometimes we can't avoid. There's a book that I've read, it's in my library, called Detoxify or Die by Dr. Sherry Rogers. She is a brilliant physician who has studied toxicity for a long time. And her basic theory is that we get a lot of toxins in the environment. That's the bad guys going in. But if we put the good guys in through nutrition, and if we exercise, especially exercise helps your body to eliminate those toxins, eliminate the poisons. It's kind of like, income and expense. So if you have a business or with your home, you know that you want to increase the income and lessen the expense. When it comes to your health and your body, you want to increase the income through nutrition so that your body can expend the chemicals. And when you exercise, you increase that process. So if you go to the gym, or if you work out, or if you're out in the field, or whatever you're doing, if you're in construction, building a house, whatever you're doing, if you're working your body, after a while, what's going to happen? You're going to come in and you're going to say hi to your wife, and she's going to go, honey, you need to take a shower, right? And the reason is because when you exercise, your body is eliminating. It's eliminating toxins and poisons. That's why we stink if we don't take a shower or a bath after we exercise, or if we don't take a shower for a long time, people are gonna know it. So the body has different ways of eliminating toxins. One way is your hair. As I mentioned, if most of us get our hair tested, we're gonna find that we have things in there. And that's because the body uses your hair as a means of elimination. Your skin, which is the largest organ of the body, your skin is an organ of elimination. That's why, under the arms, and we don't smell good after a while, because the body's getting rid of poisons. That's why that's happening. And the same thing with even when we breathe. We breathe in oxygen, we breathe out carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is something we do not want in our bodies. And so even breathing is a way of getting out poison. And then when we go to the bathroom, whether we pee or whether we poop, it is the body's way of getting rid of poisons, things that we don't need. Now, some of those things come from the environment, from the toxins. And some of those poisons come just from metabolism, the way our bodies, when we digest food, the way we have all our bodily functions, our bodies do create waste in just the normal process of metabolism that needs to get out. So the more you exercise, you are aiding your body's ability to get rid of poison. So nutrition helps detoxify your body because you're giving your body the tools to get rid of the poison. And when you exercise, you're helping detoxify your body because you're moving things along and you're aiding in elimination. So these are weapons to help us to win the war that we're all in when it comes to our body. Now, the next letter is W for new start, and the word there is water. There is hardly anything that you can drink that is better for your body than water. And the reason is because a large percentage of you is water. I think they say 70 to 80% of your body is water. It's not Coca-Cola that's swimming around there in every cell. It's water. And so the more water you drink, and I understand that you've got good water up here, you're very fortunate to live in Garden Valley. If you're on a well and you have a good water, that is a huge blessing. We have a well on our property, 365 feet deep. It's way down there. When we first bought our property, we tested the water and found out that it was good. It was good water. It doesn't have uranium in it or different things that are harmful. So we drink our water straight from the tap. Water is very, very good for your body. Water helps the functions that go on inside of you to work better. And so there's a lot of things that we can drink these days, and I think part of the battle is the temptations that we get, from the advertising and from, drink this, drink this, drink this, but it may not be what's best for our bodies. Water also helps with colon cancer, because when you combine fiber, which is your broom that helps, sweep things along, with water, water also gives your stool bulk. So you've got the fiber and the water. It makes it a lot easier to go to the bathroom so that you don't have to read a novel while you're there. you're not there for that long of a time. I know that's pretty blunt, but this is the reality. Personally, I'll just tell you I grew up in Southern California. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. I grew up in a home where we were not a religious home. We never read the Bible. And then when I was 20 years old, I started reading the Bible, and my whole life changed. And during my teenage years, I got involved in drugs, and I was drinking. I was smoking marijuana. I was using sometimes LSD, all kinds of bad things. I was killing myself. But then when I started reading the Bible, I realized I need to make a change in my life. So I laid off the bad things, tried to keep the good things. And so for me personally, most of the liquid that I drink is water. I drink a lot of water. Every once in a while, I get a chance to get access to a juicer and to have these good. I do have a juicer, and especially in the summer when I'm growing my beets and my cucumbers, I'll use my juicer. But anyway, I try to be as healthy as I can. Now, I'm not perfect. I don't always, eat everything right. But at this point in my life, I don't smoke. I don't drink alcohol. I don't drink coffee. I drink a lot of water. I try to eat a plant-based diet. I try to exercise. And when I look at all the things that I've been doing for myself for the last 45 years, I'm convinced that it's definitely helped me. And I'm still here. Now, I could die tomorrow. You never know. But I want to do the best I can to be around as long as I can for my wife and for my kids. So water is very, very valuable. Sunlight. We have been overly frightened by the idea that if we get in the sun, we're going to get skin cancer. Now, if you're in the sun too much, that is a danger. But we should not be afraid of getting out in the sun. Sun is wonderful for your body. It lowers your blood pressure. It gives you vitamin D, which does a ton of things with your immune system. Your immune system is strengthened so that you can fight diseases. It's funny, and I can see the sun right now. It's out there, and that looks wonderful. In our family, we have 3 cats and a dog. And our dog, he's a little dog. Her name is Eva. And we normally like her, but sometimes she's a pain. But I've learned that and I actually have a book that I'll bring out tomorrow for the book sale called Will My Pet Go to Heaven? For those of you that are pet lovers and never asked that question. But anyway, I've noticed that Eva, if there's a little bit of sunlight coming from through the window onto one little area, Eva and the cats will go over, and that's where they'll lay down. Eva is, even though she's not smart all the time, she's smart enough to know that she needs that sunlight. So animals know that. And if you do your homework on the benefits of sun, it is phenomenal. So we don't want to be in the sun too long. We don't want to burn, because that does raise the risk of skin cancer. And studies have also shown that if you have too much fat in your diet, fat also will be exuded from your skin, and the combination of the sun on the fat contributes to melanoma more than if you're not on a high-fat diet. So, but anyway, sunlight, I know when I travel, if I have a chance, let's say I have a seminar in California or in Kansas during the winter months, I will definitely try not just to swim, but to get out and lay out and get that sunlight for 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And for me personally, I can feel a significant difference. And I'm more relaxed, my mood is better. So I know that sunlight is very, very important. So get all you can. During the winter months when we don't get it, I strongly recommend that you supplement with vitamin D3. I have a little bottle here that a natural dentist recommended to me. You can look at it afterwards, vitamin D3 plus MK7. And so I put a few drops of this on my toast in the morning. You don't taste it, but I'm getting my vitamin D, even in the winter months. And the last time my blood was tested, my vitamin D levels were fine. So it's very important that we get our vitamin D from the sun. So that's the S in sunlight. And when I'm done, I'll do a Q&A, so if you have questions, you're welcome to ask them. So the next in New Start, the T is temperance, which temperance basically means self-control. It's kind of an old word, we don't use it as much anymore, to be temperate, but the idea is self-control. The principle of temperance is that we abstain as much as we can from things that are bad, and that we're moderate in things that are good. You've heard the expression, even too much of a good thing, isn't good. So we need to be temperate about those things. And self-control. So there are, there are things that are in front of us, the advertising, the friends, sometimes family, and so we are being tempted regularly to eat or drink things that are not good for our bodies. And that's where I see this as a spiritual battle where we need to learn how to resist temptation. You've heard the expression, right? You got the bad guy on the one side and the good guy on the other side, and what are we going to do? And it's not one decision that's going to make or break you. If you have Christmas time or Thanksgiving and you don't do it all completely right, it's not one meal that's going to make or break your life. It's the little decisions that you do on a regular basis that are going to have a compound effect. I read a book once called The Compound Effect, and it was all about the compound effect of little choices. Little choices. Even, this is something that a lot of people don't think about. I read a news article once about a woman that was she was over 100 years old. And so a reporter asked her, "What's your secret? What are you doing so you can live so long?" And her response was, she chews her food until it is a cream, and then she swallows it. That's her secret. And the idea is that your teeth, chewing your food so you don't just take a bite and bolt it down, as you chew on a regular, more and more and more, it breaks down your food for you, and then it mixes with saliva. And saliva is a miracle liquid that will help your body digest your food. So just the simple act of chewing longer can be that little step that helps to improve your health. You can look at the top hand up there. There's another little saying, and the saying is, if you've heard this one, the whiter the bread, the sooner you're dead. You ever heard that? So the idea is, when it's completely white, they've mostly taken out the good things. They've processed out the grain, the fiber, and things that are good. Now, there's still some benefit there, but it's better to eat darker bread. The longer the shelf life, the shorter your life. That's another one. If you eat a lot of fast foods or the donuts, if you eat too many donuts, you'll probably be dishing out dough to pay for your medical bills. That's just the reality of nutrition. So we need to do what we can and eat food as best as we can. And like I said, I'm not saying you should never do this, but so when I read the book, The Compound Effect, it basically says, the little things build up. Those of you that are married, that little things that you do for your spouse make a difference, right? They do. Little things make a difference. And if you get into a habit of doing, even just taking a walk, drinking more water, chewing your food more, those little things are going to build up as time goes on, and they're going to help your health. So the A in New Start is air, fresh air. And thankfully, we live in Idaho, so you got a lot of great air here. You hope. I mean, there are some things that in the air you wonder about, but overall, I grew up in Los Angeles, and I tell you, when you look out over LA from Mulholland or from the Hollywood Hills, And sometimes the smog is so thick that they closed the schools. You know, up here we have snow days, right? In Los Angeles, they have smog days. So they don't let you go to school because there's too much pollution in the air. So that's one thing. So air, getting fresh air. My wife and I, we have a habit when we go to bed at night, even if it's in the winter, and it's cold out there, we'll crack the window in the bedroom and we'll put more blankets on the bed so that while we're sleeping, we're getting some fresh air into our rooms. So fresh air just strengthens your lungs. It brings more oxygen, which goes to all your cells. So fresh air is very important. Now the next R, new start. The last R is rest. There's a lot of studies out there that show that if you get a good night's sleep, your body is going to thank you. Much, much better. I remember when I was a kid in the San Fernando Valley, I remember going into a bathroom and somebody had written on it was either on the wall or on the mirror of the bathroom, a little saying that I've never forgotten. And the saying was, "He who hoots with the owls at night cannot soar with the eagles in the morning." And it's been, I don't know, it's been probably 50 years since I read that little saying, and I still remember it. So for me personally, I try to go to bed around 9 o'clock. And I find that when I get a good night's sleep, my whole outlook, I just function a lot better. So rest is very important. There's all kinds of studies that show about the different levels of sleep and what this does for your nervous system, your central nervous system. The list goes on and on. It's very, very good for you to get a good night's sleep. Actually, I'll tell you one more quick story. There was a guy that, I know a physician friend of mine, Dr. Neil Nedley, and he was giving a talk some time ago, and I was listening to him, and he said that he was overseas somewhere, Panama maybe, and he said there was a man there that was like 127 years old, and he could not believe it. And this man was out in the garden, he was working, and he said, when I saw this man, I had to really rethink my philosophy of aging. And this man he's a brain specialist, Dr. Nedley. And he found out that what this man does is he still, he works outside, he's very active, he eats a good diet, and he goes to bed very, very early so he can get a good night's sleep. And that just impressed Dr. Nedley, and it impresses me too. So the last T in New Start is trust. Trust in God. Now, like I said, I don't know, all your religious beliefs, but in my life personally, when I discovered that there's a God in heaven who loves me, who cares for me, who made me, who sent his son, gave his life for me, and I realized that, and I decided to give up the bad habits, to give my life to God, to do my best to serve him, my conscience experienced a sense of relief that he has forgiven me for the things that I've done. And to know, we've all done things we're not proud of, every one of us. But if we confess those things to God and say, Lord, I'm sorry for what I've done, I ask you to forgive me, the sense of forgiveness, just the very act of confessing and forgiveness, and then trusting him as a loving God, what that does is it lifts guilt off of the conscience. And so I don't carry the guilt of the things that I used to do as a teenager. Those things are gone. And when your guilt is removed, and you know that you're forgiven and that you're loved, and that you have a purpose in life, you're not here for no reason, but you have a real purpose, that is it's not only good for your spiritual life, but it's also good for your health. It's good for your health. And you learn that having someone up there who loves you and who can help you in the struggles that we all have, it's good for our peace of mind, and it's good for our hope in the future when everything's looking pretty dismal. Saying, Lord, you got this, and you're going to work it out, and I'm going to trust in you to take care of my life. And I have found that is very valuable also for health. I'm almost done here. 3 John verse 2 says, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. So God is definitely concerned about our health, our families are. And this slide is a teaser for tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm going to take my tie off, take off my suit, and I'm going to talk to you about special forces in addition to the 8 laws of health, which sometimes people call the 8 doctors, God's 8 doctors. I'm going to talk about special forces to help us win the war, to give you even more nutrients into your body, especially in the winter months. You know, if you don't have a garden, or if you have a garden, but you can't grow in the winter, well, guess what? You can grow sprouts and microgreens. I've learned this, I've been doing this even since I was a teenager. When I was doing all the bad things, I learned how to sprout. And so when I gave up the bad things, I kept sprouting, because this is a good habit. So there you'll see, this is my kids when they were littler. There's Seth and Abby. And this is buckwheat, this is wheatgrass, this is purple rambo radish, this is sunflower, these are peas, there's peas, nice salad. And so I'm going to talk to you all about the benefits of doing this, and I'm going to give you some tips, and I'm actually going to give a demonstration. I brought something with me from Idaho that is growing. I put it in my suitcase, and I've learned how to do it. And I'll show you tomorrow something very interesting, and I think you will genuinely benefit from learning how to do this. I teach a whole course on this called Sprouting with Steve. So anyway, that's what we're doing tomorrow. So I hope that you will come for the next part. And before we wrap up, do we have any questions? I'm willing to do a Q&A. Yes, sir.
When you say hours, how many hours of sleep are you actually looking at?
Well, they say, you know, Dr. Nedley, who's really a specialist in this area, he says you really need if you get more than 4, you are off the edge. Below 4, you're on the edge. After 4, that's like the minimum. He says 7 or 8 hours is much better for you. That's more, some people say 9 hours. I think it really depends a little bit on the person. I don't think there's an exact one-size-fits-all. I think that also as you get older, you may not need as much sleep. But for me, right around 9 o'clock, I can feel it. It's time for me to go to bed. And I get up fairly early in the morning, so definitely more than 4. 7 or 8 is better, possibly 9 if you need it. Yes?
I just wanted to add on that 7 to 9 hours, neurobiologically speaking, 7 to 9 hours of sleep is what's required for the human body. The reason as you age that you're unable to sleep as much is not that you don't need it, it's that your body is not processing specific neurotransmitters and everything at the same rate that you were younger. And also about the owls will get to sort with the eagles. There are actually 5 different sleep cycles or sleep types.
It's a science. Sleep is a science.
It's actually genetic. So some people, you get people who stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, wake up late. That's actually something you can't change in your body. So just so you know, you need to find what your actual sleep cycle is. You go to bed early at 7 o'clock in the morning in the evening. You're sleep early bedtime, waking eagles and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, so there's some individualization concerning all this. And each one of these are basic principles. And the more you study and learn about them, you'll get some of those details. Here's another little tip I didn't mention, that studies have shown that if you eat late at night before you go to bed, it affects your sleep cycle. So it is better to have that third meal a number of hours before you go to bed. They say breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, supper like a pauper. But we do it the opposite. And somebody once said, kind of tongue-in-cheek, that's why the feet smell and the nose. How does it say it? Instead of the feet smell and the nose does something. I forgot. What was it? The nose what? Yeah, the nose runs. That's why the nose runs and the feet smell instead of the nose smelling and the feet running. It's because we're doing things the way we shouldn't be doing. And so, going to bed with a full stomach is not, because your body wants to do a lot of other things during those sleep cycles. It doesn't want to be spending energy digesting your food. So eat less in the evening before you go to bed, or at least a spaced amount of time so you can go to bed, hopefully with an empty stomach. It's better for your sleep. Okay, now, any more questions? Any more questions?
What's your idea on fasting?
Fasting, I think fasting is good periodically. The Bible does talk about fasting. From what I've read, if you get into a regular habit of fasting one day a week, so let's say you just take Monday, I'm not going to eat Monday, I'm just going to drink water, or just abstain from the food, your body will really thank you for that. So for some people, a 3-day fast, or I did a 3-week fast once. It was a juice fast. So I was just juicing, that I had no hard food, just juice, 3 weeks. And I remember as I got near the end of those 3 weeks, my body just started eliminating the sneezing and the mucus that was just coming out of me. And I knew this is a cleanse. This is a cleanse that's going on. So some people, in the Bible, Jesus fasted 40 days. It's a long time. Some people can handle a longer fast, but if it's hard for you to do that. And another thing is when you fast, the body starts eliminating poisons, and you got to be psychologically ready for that, because you might feel awful after a few days because you're getting rid of a lot of stuff. So the simple way to do it would just be to pick on a regular basis, if you've got the weight to handle that, one day a week. Just don't eat, and your body will be fine. Now, those of us that are thinner, like me, I have a very high metabolism, and so, when I don't eat, I lose weight quick. My wife wishes she had that problem, but she doesn't. So different people have different metabolisms. But if if you've got enough bulk on your body, and you can handle one day a week not eating, you will be just fine doing that. Yes. Okay. Any more questions? Are we good to go? Okay. All right. Paul, come up and give the final comments, and I hope that you will come tomorrow, same time, same place, to learn about the incredible benefits to your body of learning how to grow sprouts and microgreens, which is not as hard as you think. Actually, if you do certain of them, it can take you just seconds a day to grow lentil sprouts in 3 days. So tomorrow, I'm going to show you my jar of full lentil sprouts that I started Thursday. Today or tomorrow will be Sunday, 3 days, and a full jar of sprouts. And I'll teach you exactly how to do that tomorrow. So thank you. I'm going to drink the rest of my juice.
Thanks, Steve. I just want to share, everybody have a list of our future events. It's going to be the next 4 days, so whatever you can attend, please do. So Steve is tomorrow about this, and you're going to get 2 of his books. One's called Sprout Power, and the other one is one of his newest books called The Light at the End. So you get both books tomorrow. Then on Monday through Wednesday, Lim Neary will also be talking about these last 3 subjects. And there's also a light supper starting at 5. If you want to have a free healthy meal, there'll be food in the back. Eat if you get here between 5 and 6, and then at 6 will be the talk. And today I'll be in the back. I brought in some products that I use. I try to eliminate chemicals from the house I live in. So I don't buy Cascade dishwashing liquid anymore. I use a plant-based, and there's many other things. So I just gathered up a bag and brought them here if anybody wants to see examples. And I can show you a free website if you want to know more about this to eliminate chemicals in your home. Granted, all these things do not cost more money than the Procter & Gamble brands. You're not spending more money, you're just not putting toxic chemicals into your life. So I'll be in the back about that. And also Sandy will be in the back if anybody likes to know about the Bible study group that she runs on Tuesdays.